Welcome to Issues in Education Faced by Newcomers. Why is this relevant? According to Statista Research Department, there are 300,000 annual immigrants to Canada. 21.5% of Canadian population are immigrants with permanent resident status, and in 2020, there were more than 500,000 international students in Canada. Building awareness of some of the issues newcomers face is important to challenging our implicit biases and creating more inclusive and accessible environments. Two issues that we want to focus on are getting education credentials verified and also biases towards English language proficiency. To start, we wanted to share some of our personal experiences. For example, Reeba had to get her own credentials verified, which was a very time-consuming process that also required a lot of money investments. Reeba had to write IELTS for her permanent residency application, but also for any academic programs that she was applying to. Landi interviewed a hiring manager for this project regarding our concerns. The hiring manager mentioned that there is a high preference for Canadian experienced candidates, as non-Canadian experiences are very difficult and a hassle to verify. Landi also talked about her social settings and how the cultural gap and language barriers impacted her ability to socialize at work because of the inclusion of a lot of daily jokes in parties and gatherings. Rita expressed her experience as a first-generation Canadian who watched her parents go through the process and struggle of receiving education credentials in Canada. Rita also works with both domestic and international students in a private college settings. Requirements for domestic students are trivial, while those for international applicants are very rigorous. Asyah's experience as an international student was filled with challenges around the English language testing requirements. Many language nuances were also lost on her, such as idioms, colloquial sayings, or pop culture references that were part of day-to-day interactions in the classroom and work settings. New immigrants often struggle with trying to get their education credentials verified and as a result take on survival jobs instead of being employed in an equal or high position as their home country. So how many individuals do we encounter in our lives that are working manual labor jobs that do not match their credentials? Many newcomers to Canada face this challenge due to the difficulty of verifying their credentials from outside of Canada. 24% of employed foreign-educated university-level immigrants were working in a regulated occupation that matched their field of study, compared to 62% of their Canadian-born counterparts. According to Vancity, immigrants in BC with manual labor jobs are 5 times more likely than their third-plus generation Canadian counterparts to have university degrees. The challenge of acquiring English language proficiency to the level required for successful participation in the workplace is one of the barriers. The same applies to educational contexts. Operating in a new language is a very involved process. Our brains have to take in new information, translate it, understand it, then translate it back to communicate. Let's think about this the next time a non-native English speaker pauses after we ask them a question, especially in a learning context. The second barrier is the bias towards accents. That includes degrading accents other than Canadian accents, considering Canadian accent the norm, and also equating an accent with proficiency. So how do we challenge these biases? Newcomers' internal power emerges from awareness and appreciation of the symbolic resources that they have brought with them into the new country and that no one can take away from them. Internal power is the power newcomers need to build their confidence and strength when facing different challenges. Successful immigrants are aware of their self-worth and are able to market their skills based on their strong knowledge of how Canadian systems work. However, much study needs to be done on how high language proficiency and strong educational backgrounds are factors in their success. Some of the recommendations we have are: first, awareness programs for Canadian-born employees to sensitize them towards issues faced by newcomers. Second, nationwide recognized Canadian equivalency provided to newcomers for their international education. And third, Roycel and colleagues have a few suggestions for combating biases towards non-Canadian American British accents, which include acknowledging the biases, putting the onus of comprehension skills on the side of the listener, and practicing self-regulation. Thank you for listening.